New stars shone in the night sky of Haina, one of the moons of Astvar Prime. He could see it, in fact, the great green-blue world rising on the horizon. City lights shining like gems and jewelry of nobility, decorating shorelines and interiors of the great continents. But it was not the beauty of the world that kept his attention, but the moving stars. Elements of a properly named battle group Retribiution were gathering in system. Imperial Guard, Imperial Navy, Sisters of Battle, Mechanicus, Night Houses, Titan Legions, and brotherly Astartes chapters were arriving en masse to strike down old and hated foe. He couldn't help but feel the fire burning in his chest. The promise of vengeance long due was right before him. The promise of war and blood and ruin. He took a deep breath, enjoying the cold southern wind that crashed on the walls of his home. The Astral Bastion. The fortress monastery of his chapter. Star Executioners. Captain of the first company and the champion of the chapter, Varian Starkar, couldn't help but smile. Over 200 years have passed since this monastery was made into a ruin. 17 times damn traitor, Vain the Desecrator, sieged the system for 2 damn decades, cracking the walls and fortifications, but not defenders. The orcs that arrived in force needed only a few months to turn those cracks into gaping holes. They fell upon them like a green tide. He remembered it, the noise, the smell, but not fear. Never fear. The memories of distant and bloody past were broken by a serf, covered in blue and crimson robes. They were well made, but what else you would suspect from a personal servant of a first captain? Varian was about to make a slight jest, as he usually did when he noticed the grim expression of his mortal friend. He turned to face him fully, all thought of exchanging good-natured jabs gone in the split of a second. "What's going on, Marcus?" The serf didn't hesitate. "The Dark Angel Strike Force entered the system, my lord," Serf said with disdain. "Singular strike cruiser with escorts. It belongs to the 5th Company." Varian felt as if his blood was turned into boiling oil as his rage flared up inside him. "Those hooded cowards are here?" He spat with rage, some of his spit sizzling on the stone. "Yes, Chapter Master Almaric calls for you to join him in the Chamber of Rebirth," Marcus stated. "Our other guests are already present. I think he wants to make a statement. The moment of the bastards of Lion will arrive." Varian allowed his features to change into a mask of disgust. For as much as he despised Vain and his chaos-corrupted filth, the disdain he felt towards the descendants of the First Legion was something different, and far more personal. He stormed off, each beat of his heart a supernova, each step an earthquake. He didn't wait for Marcus, he wouldn't be able to keep up anyway. He passed through stone corridors, deeper into the fortress. It was more lively than usual. Not only did Star Executioners boosted their numbers over 1,000 Astartes in preparation for the crusade, as their mandate allowed it, but many guests of honor were present as well. Representatives of 36 different chapters were allowed within monastery walls. Black Templars, Crimson Dragons, Scar Lords, Sons of Medusa, Astral Knights, Lazarine Hounds, Nova Marines, and many, many more were welcomed with open arms and given access to a monastery. Reason for that was quite obvious, as he entered the chamber of sacrifice. Dozens of banners hung from the ceiling and on the walls of the chamber. Not one belonged to the Star Executioners. They were of all those who stood by the side of a chapter in their darkest hour, who died defending this monastery as if it was their own home. From Space Marines, Sisters of Battle, Skitari, Guardsmen, even militia, all were given their rightful place in the chamber. Statues raised in their honor, neophytes and veterans alike, guarding their tombs of the fallen heroes. Varian slowed down only by a fraction, seeing the familiar statue of a guardsman, one of the death corps of Krieg. In honor to 109th Infantry Krieg Regiment, led by Francis von Adler, was written in gold under the statue. The male figure wore a gas mask, so typical of the soldiers of the Death World. A shame, really. Francis had quite a striking smile and surprisingly sharp sense of humor. The thought passed through his mind as quickly as he did the chamber, making it in all haste towards the chamber of Rebirth. He passed by his brothers, who seemed just as agitated as him. The word of the Dark Angel's arrival spread fast. The previously determined and jovial atmosphere of a monastery, where everyone was excited to enact vengeance upon Thronebreakers, turned grim. He finally reached the chamber, exchanging nods with two members of his company before entering. To say that the chamber was vast would be an understatement. It was here where they prayed, made oaths and dueled between each other. Great glass-stained windows surrounded the chamber, each with different depiction of heroes and martyrs of the Imperium. Warriors of his and many other chapters were standing around the chamber. His master, his chapter master, Almaric Lati, was waiting by the statue of the founding. A golden man strangling a serpent with a number 3 carved upon its scales. A reminder how it was a victory over the damnable Emperor's children that established their chapter. He was accompanied by Astartes of other chapters, some of which Varian knew personally. "Ah, Varian, good. I was wondering when you will show up." Chapter Master allowed himself a slight smile. "Wouldn't want you to miss the arrival of a first," he added with a grim sarcasm. "Sons of a lion always arrive, uninvited and unannounced." Wolf Lord Ulfar, known as Black Claw, scoffed with disdain. "The bastard must be high on some shrooms if they think they will get a warm welcome from you." Other Astartes nodded their heads. "Wouldn't be the first time when the pride of the first outgrew their competence." Chaplain Bathory of the Crimson Dragons noted, his skull mask hiding without a doubt his disappointed look. "Knowing them, they don't even remember the injustice they committed against your chapter." Durian Rivor, chapter master of the Scar Lords, noted, his face marked with deep rugged scars. Too caught up with their own secrets to notice anything else. "What do you intend to do, old friend?" Godric, Marshal of the Black Templars, asked, turning to Almaric. "Our forces are nearly ready. It's a mighty force." He trailed off. The father of star executioners clenched his jaw. "If you're suggesting that I should allow those wretches the honor of standing by our side when they failed us before, then you might not know me as well as you thought, old friend." There was a note of a threat in that statement, one Varian didn't allow to fester. "Master Godric didn't mean any disrespect, my lord." Champion intervened. "Many still remember us as we were before Rebirth, staunch followers of pragmatism. And no matter how much it pains me to say this, he is right. And we both know it. Vayne is a monster, and money would sacrifice much for the sake of more blades to face such a foe. But not us," Almaric said sternly. Varian smiled. "No, master, not us." "We are glad that even in the face of a sworn enemy, you keep true to your conviction." A marine wearing the black and gold of the Emperor's champion of the Black Templars said in a friendly tone. "Thank you, Benedict." Varian turned to his old friend. "It's good to have you by our side in this hour of need." "We wouldn't miss this for anything." They clasped their hands, each grinning from ear to ear. Their respective masters exchanged looks and chuckled. "Emperor's champion is right, of course, but I want you to know that no matter what decision you make here, the Black Templars will stand by your side." Godric bowed his head respectfully. "Though your words bring me joy, I was worried that your desire for vengeance would blind you. Forgive me for doubting you, my friend." Almeric relaxed slightly, making a friendly gesture. "No offense taken, Godric. I wouldn't be the first of Emperor's angels to allow hatred to blind me. But I am not blind, old friend. In fact..." He turned towards the main door, which started to open. "I see things more clearly now than ever before." The atmosphere in the chamber tensed as the first of the Dark Angels entered. All eyes turned to measure them. They strode in with confidence and pride so typical of the First Legion, their white robes contrasting with the green armor. It didn't take them long to realize that they weren't welcome. Not that it stopped them. The marine leading the group, a captain, by his markings, was about to speak, but Almaric cut him off before he got the chance. "You are late, brother." He spoke with a venom in his voice. The Dark Angel paused, confusion hidden behind his helmet. "Seeing how you are still here and not on your way to Prime Gala, I doubt that's the case." Dark Angel answered, not trying to be respectful. His posture relaxed, almost casual. Almaric turned to him fully, his master-crafted power armor growling alongside the burning hatred of his master. His eyes narrowed. "Oh no, you are late. Over 2 centuries too late, in fact." He stepped forward. During the Desecration Wars, this chapter monastery was besieged. For 25 years, we held the line against the Desecrator, and many stood and died by our side. He raised his voice so that all could hear them. Garrick Vol of Black Templars, Hrothmir of the Space Wolves, Paladin Meiron Tyras of Astral Knights, Sergeant Koro of Scar Lords. He continued to name martyrs from every chapter that was present. Even mortals died here, defending our home. Helmina Voskar, Canoness of the Daughters of Strife, Sister Superior Yelena Kastovar of a Martyred Blade, Varsha Dorna of the 199th Steel Legion, Commissar Lorian Gret of Cadian 331st, Francis Adler of the Krieg's 109th Infantry Regiment, and hundreds more besides. There wasn't a person in the chamber and beyond who didn't listen. All eyes were focused on the chapter master. Many were nodding or exchanging quiet looks. Some of the Marines were old enough to remember their fallen brothers. We honor all of them, be it Astartes, Sororitas, or mere mortal. For it was through their sacrifice that our chapter endured, that we can stand here, reborn and reforged. He turned towards the Dark Angel, who seemed just as relaxed as before, not able to predict what was about to happen. But where were the Sons of the Lion? Where were the Knights of Caliban when Astvar called for aid? Almaric roared, shaking the chamber. Where were our brothers with whom Star Executioners bled during the siege of Arak Prime? With whom we purged Hive Spires of Zenkar? By whose side we broke the siege of Holm's Gate and brought salvation to those trapped in that hell? The passion in his words was strong enough that you could carve the stone with it. I shall tell you, they fell upon a pitiful band of traitors and Alpha Legionnaires on Bast's world. They destroyed the enemy and did so swiftly, his eyes burning with a flame of unforgotten treachery. But did they send aid when their brothers needed them most? Did they spare even a squad of Marines? Send even one crate of bolter rounds? He asked the crowd, gathering Star Executioners, becoming angrier by the second. No! They left! They ran! He spat on the ground. Dark Angels stiffened at those words. Yet even the prideful captain of the first couldn't open his mouth as Almaric continued his speech. When it was time to show bravery, dedication to duty and honor towards a brother chapter who bled by their side, they ran. He turned towards the silent captain of the Dark Angels, who started to realize how unwelcome they really were here. But rejoice! Here they are! 2 centuries too late! Expecting us to give them the honor to fight by our side! Murmurs could be heard from the Marines. Notably, not all of them were Star Executioners. As it would turn out, in their long millennia, Dark Angels wronged more than just one chapter. And they knew it. Comprehension of gravity of their past actions and hard looks of other Marines, keeping them in place. Look at them! The bastards of Caliban! The hooded cowards! The honorless, dark pigeons. Almaric mocked them with venom in every syllable. Oh, how would the lion weep if he saw how far his sons have fallen. The last word especially seemed to have the greatest impact. Captain of the Dark Angels twitching hard enough that it was visible through the armor. Marines by his side were seething with rage, but the fury of the first was nothing compared to the disgust felt by every Star Executioner present. And they felt it. They weren't welcome here. They came unannounced and uninvited, sure that the fame of the Dark Angels would be enough to stop anyone from making a move. They were mistaken. As Dark Angel looked around the chamber, seeking allies among the other chapters, he found none. Not one showed any sign of being by their side. Only Sons of Ferus Manus showed cold neutrality, if even that. Varian almost chuckled, seeing their reaction. Much has changed since the reforging and rebirth of the chapter. Star Executioners were no longer the prideful sons of Robute Gilliman. The Desecration Wars humbled them, forced them to change, evolve. In those 2 centuries, they weren't idle, and they spent much of their time and resources to ensure that if any new calamity would fall upon Astvar, the Star Executioners would have one thing in abundance, above everything else. Allies. You went too far. Such insults cannot be ignored. Captain of the Dark Angels growled. I will have you recede your words and send an official apology to my lord Aradiel. Almaric scoffed at that. Huh? And how do you intend to order me around? In my own home? There was a real threat in his voice now. The Dark Angel didn't back down. I am Malakiel, the master of the 5th Company, keeper of the unseen ritual, and I demand Duel for honor of my chapter as answer to insults from Chapter Master Almaric Lati of Star Executioners. Murmur echoed through the chamber. Honor duels were not uncommon among the Astartes, though usually they didn't have that much history and pain attached to them. Almaric smiled. I accept the challenge, and delegate Varian Starscar as my representative. Varian didn't twitch at the announcement, simply stepped forward. He expected this. He was the champion of the chapter, after all. Malakiel scoffed. How brave of you to delegate someone else to fight in your duels. How stupid of you to assume you deserve the honor of crossing blades with my master. Varian moved to take his place in the middle of the chamber. You don't deserve to speak to my master, not to mention duel with him. Dark Angel eyed his opponent. Varian was an unusual sight. His armor was a unique masterpiece, very different from armors of his brothers. His chest piece was extended, golden and decorated in strange blue alloy. Similarly, his helmet was of golden color, marking him as not only a captain, but a champion. His right arm was decorated with flames. The left one was of a black and silver with markings of a death watch. A magnificent cape flowed down behind him. He noted the presence of a strange markings and rune amulet, as well as a chain around his left arm, a saber by his side. Malachiel shook his head in disdain. Once you were proud successors of Ultramar. Now look at you, stealing traditions of others, when your own proven to be fragile. Varian chuckled at that. Our history taught us humility and appreciation of others. And, unlike many others, we learned from our mistakes. Unlike you. You are still stuck in the long-lost age of legions. You forget yourself. We are the first. You are just one of countless others. Dark Angel spat, brandishing his power sword. I shall teach you and your chapter a hard lesson. One that will make you change your traditions once more. Varian slowly brandished his power saber, gifted to him by the Crimson Dragons so many decades ago. He used his left hand and raised it in a salute. I doubt it. I call upon Iron Fane, Pelan Shock of Iron Lords to oversee this duel. His master called out. The son of Ferus Manus, more machine than man, moved to take his spot on the arena. Only one human eye endured in the metal mask that was his face. The eye observed everything with a cold, analytical look, somehow more inhuman than the red lens that replaced the other. What are conditions for victory? He asked in robotic, monotone voice. Until one side yields or cannot continue to fight. Malachiel called out. Are those conditions acceptable by the other side? He turned to Varian. They are. Champion of the Star Executioners nodded. Very well. His grip on the power hammer stiffened as he slammed its pommel into the ground. Begin! One warrior rushed the other. In a split of a second they covered the distance between them and clashed. Sparks and lightning accompanied every strike. Power fields on each weapon, singing a tune to complement the mastery of their owners. And the contest between the two was magnificent, for each was a master in their own right. Malachiel was the keeper of unseen ritual, one who kept the ancient traditions and techniques of warriors of Lost Caliban. Each strike he made was a masterstroke, carrying the long history of knight orders of old. But when he gained initial advantage, he just as quickly lost it. For Varian was a different beast, entirely. For when Malachiel's skill was based on a foundation of ancient knights and their successors, Varian's style was a mix of dozens of schools. Fast thrusts of the white scars were mixed with the chopping strikes of sons of Ras, and he parried with the ruthlessness of a Black Templar. Initially he gave ground, only to start to parry and push his foe backwards, changing his styles and stances on a dime, flowing from one onto the other as if he was a dancer. And for all his mastery of the blade, Malakil could barely keep up, unable to adapt to dozens of styles he was assaulted with. His upper strike was pushed aside, and moments later an armored fist connected to his helmet, sending him back a few steps. He kept his composure and defense, breaking off for a moment and getting some distance between them. Varian didn't pursue, allowing him to retreat. An insult everyone knew. "Who taught you?" Malakil asked, fury and disbelief mixing into his prideful tone. "Who taught you to fight like that?" "It would be easier to say who didn't." Varian casually changed the hand which held the blade and made a few practice strikes into the air. "For 2.5 decades, I served in the Death Watch. There, I learned much, but not as much as in my 32 years when I pledged my service to other chapters." He glanced at many Marines who observed the duel from the sides. "I trained with the Sword Brethren of Black Templars. I sparred with old wolves of Fenris. I exchanged blows with Crimson Dragons. I learned how to wield a hammer from Salamanders and saber from White Scars." He took a casual, almost relaxed stance, changing his blade-holding hand as they started circling one another. "But the first time I took up the blade was 248 years ago. 4 years before I became a neophyte of a chapter. When I was but a mortal boy, I took a blade to defend the defenders of my world." The Archangel blinked in a confusion. "What?" Varian let out an amused breath. "I was orphaned during the Desecration Wars. My parents were killed by the Throne Breakers, who managed to land on the Astvar Prime. As a boy, I scavenged and stole to survive. I reached one of the major cities, found a ship full of supplies, wanted to steal them, but it took off before I could escape." He looked around. "I ended up here, in the Astral Bastion, the old Astral Bastion, before it was cracked and broken. I was found by a lieutenant of Death Corps of Krieg. He wanted to punish me." He turned to his master. "But Almaric, just a captain then, ordered me spared, made me his servant, and I served him through the next years of the siege. I was there when Throne Breakers retreated. I was there when orcs fell upon us. I was there when Brother Halsen, who sneaked out an additional ration for me to eat, fell, holding the banner of a chapter." He fell silent for a moment before turning towards Malakil, his grip on the saber tightening. "Do you know what I did when that happened?" The master of the 5th Company remained silent, unsure what to say. "I kept the banner aloft, and with nothing but a knife, killed an orc who tried to rip it apart." His voice was made out of adamantium as he tensed his muscles once more. "You became the warrior of the chapter when they inducted you into their ranks. Me? I was their brother long before I was chosen to join their ranks." And with that, he lunged forward. Malakiel was forced into a defense stance and couldn't find an opening to change the flow of the battle. Varian stopped playing with him. Now he got serious. And for all his talent with a blade, Master of a Fifth, unrelenting company, fell under unrelenting assault of a true champion of a blade. He saw it in every strike he managed to deflect. The 4 decades of experience Varian had over him. The decades in the Deathwatch and in service of other chapters. In 5 seconds, he faced a laughing warrior of Fenris, a fanatic zealot of Eternal Crusade, a chuckling killer of Chogoris, an efficient blade master of Ultramar, and an Eldar! His eyes widened as he recognized the fighting style of Xenos, copied and transformed into a fighting style of the Astartes. This was madness! He was a Dark Angel, he was a duelist, he grunted as a master stroke cut off his right arm. He stumbled backwards, eyes wide with shock, as Varian placed the blade of his saber on his throat. His dead hand fell onto the floor, and the room fell silent. The strike was so clean that it actually took a moment for him to realize that his arm was gone. He let out a small gasp when the sting finally hit, as the blood spattered on the ground and his armor. For a few seconds, silence hung in the air before Malakiel finally spoke through gritted teeth. I yield. The Iron Lord struck the ground once more, his voice impassive as he declared, Dark Angels, yielded. Star Executioners, win this duel. He spoke in the same impassionate, mechanical tone. Varian retreated his saber and stepped back. His master stepped onto the field, looking the captain of the Dark Angels straight in the eyes. Take your sword, your arm, your brothers, your ships, and leave, was his simple demand. You are banished from Astvar system, never to return. Not unless Lion or Guilliman themselves order us otherwise. His voice was colder than winter on Fenris. And take a message to your Grand Master. Tell him this. Knights of Caliban are no brothers of defenders of Astvar. We shall never again bleed by your side. We shall not answer your calls for aid, just like you didn't answer ours. Not unless Lion or Guilliman themselves order us otherwise. He repeated. Dark Angels who witnessed the duel tensed at those words. Some almost made a move to grab their weapons, but thought better of it. They couldn't disgrace their chapter's honor further by not abiding the rules of the honor duel. An apothecary rushed to retrieve the arm, when another marine retrieved the sword. Malakiel stood straight, though he lost the aura of pride and superiority he had before. We shall not forget this, Star Executioner, he warned. My chapter doesn't forget, and never forgives. Good. I don't want you to forget. I want your chapter to carry this shame for as long as the first endures. Almaric stated sternly. and I care not for your forgiveness. I would sooner ask for forgiveness from Vain himself than from a dark angels. That made few of the knights to grab the hilts of their swords, but Malachiel stopped them with a gesture of her left hand, not forgetting the presence of Varian, who very casually kept a hand on his saber. You shall regret that, Almarek Lati. You shall regret making the enemy of the first, he stated confidently. Almarek stared at him for a moment, his eyes burrowing into his soul. Leave now, or I will order Varian to take your overarm. The threat was cold and very much serious. Malachiel stood there for 3 more seconds before turning and making it to the door. All Astartes looked after the Dark Angels after they left the room, gates closing behind them. There was no jubilation, no cheers. This wasn't a happy victory, just a judgment, long due. Almarek took a deep breath, feeling how great weight was lifted from his shoulders. A small comfort, remembering what will be their next challenge. Come, brothers. He spoke, looking at all who had gathered. We have a war to plan. That day, Almarek Lati was chosen as overall commander of battle group Retribution that was soon to carve a path through the Iron Marshes with singular goal in mind. To kill the tyrant of desecrated throne. Old injustice was paid in blood, but vengeance demanded so much more.